I was watering more consistently because of the drought, but this year it bloomed for me. So I was really surprised and pleased.
It was apparently the consistent watering that helped you.
I don't know what it was. I was really surprised. Like I said, it's been years since it's bloomed. So anyway, it's a really pretty plant, and it's great because it comes up in the late summer.
Would that be an anemic ox? His blood is pink.
Oh, very funny, Ellen.
Never mind.
Sorry. No, I think most of them are red, but I happen to have a pink one.
Yeah, blood red. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was pleased. Okay.
Yeah. Rename it, I think.
Yeah. No, it actually is typically deep red. I have the deep red form, and it typically blooms for about 2 weeks every fall. It is the one that is referred to as the oxblood lily, and it's about a foot tall.
Right. And you water yours all summer?
No, I don't. It goes dormant, and then it comes up in the fall just when it feels like it. It can be August, September, or October.
Do you water it then?
I only water it once it comes up. I don't water it at all otherwise.
Really? Okay. Well,
Bart, can you verify this looks exactly like my Zephranthus that I have out back in my backyard right now. I have the same pink version. It's so close. I'd be surprised that it's not called Zephyr Lily, but that's what I bought mine as, with a tag that said Zephranthus something or other.
Yeah, I sort of agree. I think it very likely is a Zephranthus. And it looks like one that I have as well that is pink, and that they're called rain lilies, and that they will you can almost make them flower when you want to by just watering them a lot. And if you don't water them, nothing happens. A bunch of leaves will come up, but if you don't water them regularly or really heavily and then back off and then really heavily again, then the Zephranthus will flower. There's Candida is the usual white one you see. And the pink one right now, I am not remembering the name, but it is the same one that I have too. And okay. I've gotten it from Suncrest and Nevin Smith years and years ago.
Nice.
Are you thinking this could be a Zephranthus then, Bart?
Yes, I think it very likely is, because the oxblood lily, the flowers go sort of parallel to the ground, whereas yours looks like it's facing upward more, which is what Zephranthus usually do.
The rain lilies respond really well to a change in barometric pressure, so it's much harder for us to grow them in where we live because they do really well when they have summer rainfall areas in the south, especially when they have a big storm. So I've tried to grow them in my garden, and I have found that they don't survive as well, and they don't have like tons of flowers. They just disappear. Although one year I had some planted in a lemon pot, a Meyer lemon pot, and I was gone, and whoever was supposed to water didn't water, and so most of the leaves fell off the tree. But when I came back and I watered it, well, then all these rain lilies came up.
Who is that talking?
Mary Sue. Is that Mary Sue?
Oh, you got voice. Yes. Awesome. Okay.
I used to grow this in the high desert of Southern California, and I would get big blooms, but I had the white version, Zephranthus. And there you did get winter, fall and winter, because it was 4,000 feet. So I had big blooms there.
Mary, can you take a picture of your Zephranthus, and we'll show this slide again next month with your...
I will.
So we can compare.
Okay, I will. That's great.
Okay. It's interesting because the other bulb that I got to bloom this year, which hadn't bloomed in years also, is Zephranthus candida, the one that you were talking about, Bart.
White one.
And that one, but do they all, some of them have flat leaves then? They don't have don't all have round leaves?
That's correct.
All right, I'll watch it because I thought it would. Like I said, I have several pots of the rhodophylla, and I'd like to see what they look like, how they're different.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'll see if I can send you some photos of my plants.
Okay.
Both the Zephranthes and the rhodophylla.
Okay, great. Thanks, Bart.
Sure.
Yeah, mine's been blooming for a month at least.
These blooms did not last that long. The rain lilies are more sequential, but these did not stay in bloom for weeks like you're talking about.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Judy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Charlotte, you have a nerine collage. Is that nerine or nerine? How do they pronounce that?
Well, I've been kind of collecting these for several years. I started with the Baudenii, and then I started getting the Sarcinias. Do
you know which ones are these?
The light pink one is the Baudenii. That's kind of, I guess, kind of the easier one to grow, but these have just done really well this year. Started with the light orange one, kind of the soft one, and then the deep orange one came up, and then the deep one is the most recent one to come up. But they're all in flower right now at the same time. So
beautiful.
It's probably been over about a month since the first one started.
And what growing conditions?
I'm so jealous.
The deep orange one's in a pot. The other ones are in the ground.
Full sun or shade? They look like there's other plants around them.
The pink one's pretty much in the shade. The light orange one is kind of mixed. And then the deeper colored ones are getting more sun.
So not necessarily full sun, they're in partial shade?
Well, you know, we've had like a long foggy summer, but when we have the hot days, it gets pretty warm where the deeper colored ones are that are blooming.
But they don't have any foliage in the summertime, do they?
Just a little bit starting up on the Sarracenias. The pink ones get their foliage later.
Okay, gorgeous.
Yeah, I grow them also and have them in full sun here in Point Richmond. And that all of mine are leafless for many months. And then, like Charlotte said, they're just coming up now. Mine are more like the one in the lower right-hand corner, the really rich orange, the Sarniensis sorts. Although, well, one of the really interesting things, and maybe if you can increase the size of the image on your screen, you'll notice that the flowers have this sort of, they have an unusual cellular structure so that they actually catch light and sparkle. I mean, they're very unusual in that regard.
Yeah, I don't think
really, it doesn't show up in the picture so well, but yeah, I really like that little like fairy dust on them. It's
yeah, they're really cool.
This is Mary Sue speaking, and there are nerines that are summer rainfall species, and so they have green leaves in the summer, and they need to be watered then, and are dormant in the winter, and then they flower in the fall. And then there are species that are dormant during the summer, and then come up and flower first before or sometimes at the same time as their leaves. And a lot of them, and they can hybridize so that pretty soon you might have something that could be either a combination of both, and probably many of these are probably hybrids. And I found when we were having a lot of winter rainfall and I had them outside, that they would get sick, so that I usually grow them in my greenhouse where I can control the humidity a little bit during the winter.
Okay, thank you so much.
With regard to the sun, my take on all of these bulbs that are dormant in the summer is they can be in the shade because they're not producing food through their leaves. It's in the winter that they need the sun on them because that's when they're producing food. That's when they're photosynthesizing. Just sharing.
That makes sense.
Thank you.
A lot of people have found that the ones that are dormant in summer won't flower well unless they get some water during summer when they're dormant, because they tend to have perennial roots. So you don't want to dry them out too much.
That's good to know. Okay, thank you. That was helpful because they are so gorgeous. Everybody wants one of those in their garden, or 2 or 3.
I wanted to add that I grow it in Sacramento, and it's in part shade in a pot, and they seem to bloom every year, but they're not reproducing a whole lot, just, a little bit. So.
Well, that's better than dying for sure.
Yeah.
Could be worse.
Yeah, I grow mine in pots exclusively, and they do proliferate.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I guess
Daisy, you're on.
All right, so I am thrilled that cyclamens do well in Sacramento in pretty dry shade. So these are all examples of some that are doing quite well. In the one to the far left is heterofolium, and it has a range from Italy to Turkey. And then the one in the middle is one I've been picking up at one of our big nurseries, and they only have a few of these. They're very fragrant. It's the cyclamen persicum, or the florist cyclamen, and the leaves are smaller and flowers are smaller than the other ones on the shelf, and apparently they're not as popular because they only have a few, but it's very fragrant. It's surprising how nice that is. And also originally, I guess this species was fragrant, but because of all the demand for bigger flowers and maybe longer blooms, the fragrance is not high priority as far as.
I have cyclamen persicum that is fragrant, deep red, blooming like mad right now in a pot on my porch, and very fragrant.
Oh, good.
I realized they were fragrant. That's neat.
Yeah. And what really surprised me from the ones I planted last year is I have a lot of seedlings. I mean, hundreds of little seedlings from these persicums. And then to the far right are a grouping of more of the silvery pewter forms.
Pretty.
Well, there's a coum in there, which is kind of a rounded, and then the others that are more ivy leaves is the heterofolium.
And these oblong ones are the heterofolium?
Yes.
And these are the coum?
Yeah, they're heterofolium. The one kind of in the middle to the right, lower, that one. You see, it doesn't have any lobing. That's the coum. And I grew most of these originally from, not the one in the center, but I have propagated them from seed, and it was through the seed exchange of the North American Rock Garden Society that I acquired most of my seeds. And they're not too hard, and the snails don't seem to bother it, which is an added plus.
Yes.
But it takes many years before you really see a flower. I'd say 3 years.
What does the pewter forms mean?
The leaves are silvery.
Okay.
So there's actually, that the heterofolium I found is pretty easy to grow in Sacramento, and there's a lot of different shapes and color or leaf variations. The flowers to me look sort of the same, but you can have some really beautiful foliage, yes. So,
yeah, really pretty.
I've made friends, this is Bobby, I've made friends over the years with a man named Urs, U-R-S, who owns Edelweiss Nursery up in the Pacific Northwest. He's actually in Canada. And he specializes in species cyclamen and epimedium. Oh. And he has also schizostylus. So if anybody's a collector, his nursery is wonderful.
Is it online or?
Edelweiss, yeah, Edelweiss online. It's a wonderful nursery. You can get all kinds of good ones.
Was he at the Flower Garden Show at some point?
Maybe a long time ago, because he comes from all the way up in Canada.
Yeah.
Actually, he comes from outside Portland.
Portland, he's great.
And he did participate in the garden show at both Cacao Palace, I think just at the Cacao Palace. And I've gotten many things from him, including some of the cyclamen. I have about six or eight species, I think, in my garden, but only the heterofolium are in bloom now. The rest of them really are either late winter or spring bloomers. Cyclamen persicum, the true species, not the florist hybrid, which is on the screen now, but the true species is absolutely my favorite, partly because of its fragrance, but also the very crisp pattern of the leaves. All of them survive in my garden. Almost all of them survive in my garden with no summer water at all, in sort of dappled to dark shade in San Francisco.
Nice.
Yay.
Thank you, Daisy. Thank you, Richard. Everyone else? Okay, this one is really kind of cool to me. I love it.
Yeah, this is a hybrid pitcher plant, Sarracenia X Scarlet Bell. And it looks like such an exotic plant, and yet it grows from the Canadian Arctic to New Jersey. I'm sure, you know, their habitat is being threatened. Let's see. They, you know, don't particularly like this container in the summer because it's a metal container and it heats up, and so it would prefer a running stream or you know, where the water stays cool. But because it's getting a little more shade now, this is probably a hybrid of purpurea, and that's the species that seems to do well in during our hot summers. But in Sacramento, this container is liking a little bit of protection from the sun in the afternoon. And I've grown some of the others, Leucophylla, which is more white and very beautiful, but it's not quite as easy to grow as the purpurea. So we now have a bromeliad and carnivorous plant society. So they've been a pretty good source, as well as Ernesto Sandoval's, you know, the conservatory at UC Davis.
Is that a society together, the bromeliads and the sarsias,
yes.
Yeah. Pitch plants?
Right, carnivorous.
Carnivorous.
Yeah, the
That's
bromeliad society was, you know, starting to wither away, and they decided to combine it with the carnivorous plants, and it really, they got people excited and interested, and I think that's keeping them, you know, more active now.
Oh, cool. Exciting. Okay, well, Connie, if you're there, please.
No, I'm here.
So you have this bromeliad starting to bloom. I'm assuming it might be a Bilbergia, is my unprofessional.
No, this one is just starting to bloom.
And you grow this in San Francisco outside?
No, I don't know what it's called.
No.
Right.
There are
a very shady place.
There are autumn blooming Bilbergias. I know that for sure.
Okay, well, that's what it kind of looked like to me. That's why I said, but I
agree with you.
I don't know those for sure there. Nice. I'm sure that will come back out further too. And I wonder if it has different colored flowers. I think that's just the bracts, the
right. When it
pink.
opens, it'll have orange and purple and inside, but this is just,
nice.
just early.
Nice.
Nodding flowers?
And it's in a pot.
Oh, it's in a pot. Okay. Ken asked if it was nodding flowers.
They'll fall over, right?
Okay.
I assume that's what you mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
They'll hang down.
I don't know the species, but I've grown Bilbergias.
Okay.
There's a lot of hybrids out there too.
So if you guys remember, Connie had this growing up from seed from last month, and we kind of determined that it was probably a tomatillo, and thus the husks and stuff is evidently come into fruit now. So it is confirmed. Thanks for sharing that. And then you had some nice lilies as well. This is beautiful with the little stripe in the middle. I had not.
Those are Amaryllis belladonnas, aren't they?
Well, they're in the same family. They are amaryllis.
This is the nerine. It's interesting. I learned a lot from other people who had nerines. This is growing where it gets afternoon sun and it gets drip irrigation twice a week.
Oh, nice. I was looking at the Pacific Bulb Society website to see if I could figure out maybe what species it was, but I didn't see anything with a stripe like that. I wonder if it's a hybrid, or maybe Mary Sue knows.
Amaryllis.
It's probably a hybrid. It's probably a hybrid.
Hybrid, well, nerines do hybridize with amaryllis, so do you think it could be an generic?
Whoever was talking, Ken was asking if they think it might be an intergeneric with an amaryllis or amaryllis.
But
yeah, well,
I don't remember where I got the bulb, but
it just could be a nerine hybrid too.
Yeah, although how tall is it? How tall is the whole plant in flower?
Maybe a foot to 15 inches at the most.
Well, yeah, because there are intergeneric hybrids between amaryllis and nerine, but it could, well, yeah, who knows? It could be that, or it could be just a nerine hybrid.
It's pretty with the candy stripe, though. I hadn't seen that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you have a untimely Christmas cactus, huh?
Right. That thinks Christmas is coming early.
Evidently. Well, it's kind of nice it's blooming now, because
this one is
don't have anything blooming in my
garden. Earliest it's ever bloomed. I have two others, zygote cactuses that are, one is just beginning to bud and the other one is not doing anything yet. So it's like they're all three on different schedules.
Well, it's kind of good. Then it spreads out the time frame.
I wonder, Connie, mine aren't even setting bud yet. And I wonder if it's because you had a very cool summer in San Francisco this year.
Right. But also, it's just that this one is different from the other two, and they're all more or less in the same conditions.
Well, they might be different. One might be a Thanksgiving, one might be a Christmas, and I guess they have different leaves.
One might be Easter.
There you go.
Right.
Evidently, they have a little bit different notches in the foliage, evidently. Okay. Now, Mary Sue's got a lot of bulbs that she's growing. You want me to read this, or I see you're on.
Well, okay. I live in a redwood forest, mixed evergreen forest, and I grow a lot of bulbs. I am probably very much addicted. And I started growing cyclamen a number of years ago when I visited a friend in New Zealand, and he just gave me old seed, and I started growing it from seed. And I grow, like Richard Turner, I grow a lot of different species, and so I can have flowering from July through May. And so the pictures that I'm showing are the ones, some of the ones that are flowering at the moment. And when you grow them from seed, each one may have different looking leaves, which is really kind of fun. And this one, the one that I have, this one I'm finding didn't do as well in where I was growing before, and so I'm trying them in the ground, and if I find the right spot, it seems really happy.
That one is gorgeous.
So you can probably,
yeah,
I really like the leaves on that one.
Mary Sue, I have had some, and I got most of mine originally from Wayne, and they're seeding all over the place in the most bizarre areas and very far from the original planting. And the leaves are all different. And I don't even know what I got from him. I just, you know, planted what he gave me.
Well, the ants apparently like the what's around the seed, and so they, as they're taking it to their nests, the seeds kind of drop so they can end up in many different places.
Well,
and I also have them everywhere in my garden, which is really fun because they tolerate no summer water, and then if you're growing different species, they may flower over a long period of time.
Yeah, my biggest bloom time is right now, actually.
Okay. Well, comb blooms in winter, and rapandum blooms in winter, and pseudo-ibericum starts blooming in early winter. Some of the others are later. I mean, if you grow different ones, then you have a long period of flowering.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a question for you. Okay, so this one, which was on the previous slide, was the cyclamen gracem. I don't know how you say it.
Yeah.
And Bart sent the same one, but he has hardly any foliage. So I was just wondering if that was genetics of just genetic variety, or how it's grown, or.
Well, some of the cyclamen flower before they have leaves, like heterofolium and africanum, and then some start flowering and then their leaves come pretty quickly, and some have leaves that come first and then the flowers come later. So it really depends on the species.
Okay,
And
well, he identified this as the same species.
It looks like it is. A lot of them are very similar. The flowers are kind of hard to tell apart. The tubers are often really different, and the leaves are different. So sometimes you need all three to tell apart. I put on the Pacific Wiki pictures of all the tubers. And sometimes if I have volunteers and I'm trying to figure out what they are, I can tell by looking at the tuber before they flower. And some of the tubers get giant, really, really huge, so that they're almost bigger than the pot. And those have to go in the ground then.
Yeah, that's actually this one of mine. The corm is quite large, or the tuber is quite large, almost as large as that pot. I've had them for years and years. They are also ex-Wayne Roderick and via Nevin Smith, Suncrest. Most of them appear to be Gracum, although there are some Persicum sorts also that are a little bit different. And all of mine are flowering right now, and they're all flowering without leaves. But they'll continue for quite some time. They've already been blooming for about 3 weeks. And they just get more and more and more flowers because these corms or tubers are about, 4 or 5 inches across now.
So you think they're growing without leaves because of the tubers so big in the pot?
No, this is just what they always do for me. And then the leaves come out, and the leaves on all of mine are spectacular. I do have some that are pewter forms that are just silver, like were shown earlier. But again, the one that I sent you the photo of is actually one of the better flower colors. Many of the others are paler.
Mm. Yeah, that's pretty color.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, continue, Mary Sue.
Oh, okay. The heterofolium is the one that's easiest for most people to grow, and it is one that's spreading all over my garden. It and Rapandum is one that comes up everywhere. And then the cyclamen, I don't know whether I'm ever pronouncing it right, mirabile, is just so beautiful. And sometimes when the leaves first come up, they have sort of a pink tinge to them. And I haven't been able to keep all of this particular species that I started from seed growing, but I have a few that are hanging in there and doing really well, and I think at least one in the ground, and I think it's really a beautiful one.
Yeah, very showy. And we have
then
Nirine or Nirine? What's that?
Now, these are some of the ones that I grow. The Pacific Bulb Society, well, the International Society, there's a call out saying that the man who had had a whole greenhouse full of these, that he had bred over the years, and he died, and it was a couple of years later, and somebody said that he wanted to try to see if he could rescue them, and so anybody who sent money got some. And so some of these are ones that either I have grown from those original ones, or they're ones that I grew from seed of them. And I probably will have seed, so maybe I can send it to your sale that you have in November and just give some for that.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
The one on the bottom is one that just appeared this year in a Velthemia pot, and it has kind of a pink stripe. And I did have some Nerine Bodinii, and I just wonder if it was a kind of a hybrid between some of the other ones, since a lot of them bloom at the same time. But anyway, it was kind of exciting to see it, even though it's in the wrong pot.
Yeah, neat. They're just so showy with the stamen sticking out, and up with no.
Yeah, I noticed that one in the upper left, the pollen on that, some of them look sort of bluish or purplish, and that red is really an exceptional color for that Nerine. I say Nerine. Wayne Roderick always said Nerine.
I have a number of them that are that beautiful red color because it usually sets a lot of seed, and I've grown others that from the seed, and so I have a lot of them that are that beautiful red, bright red. My camera doesn't like red very well, so I can't get the shiny and the detail as well as it shows when you see it in person, but it's really pretty.
Yeah, it's outstanding.
Now oxalis, have fun.
And then I guess I probably belong to the oxalic group, but there's a number of them that are really lovely in the fall. And if you start watering, I grow most of them in pots because it's kind of scary to grow them in the ground. And if you start watering in August, well, then usually you will start seeing them flower maybe in September and October and November. And so there's a whole group of fall flowering ones that are just very colorful and bright at a time when there's not a lot of other things flowering. So these are some of them. And they do get pollinated. And a lot of these oxalis, they shoot their seeds out the same year, just shortly after they flower. And so I do have some that are growing in the ground that I haven't planted that were near where the pots were. And I don't know if this is going to be a problem. So far, there's just a few. But anyway, I really do love them.
You know, I'm always told that it's the birds that dig them out and move them, because the yellow one, I can't think of its name right now, the Pest Capri, I have found that's, I mean, literally 200 feet around the corner of the house in my garden. I think it's seed because I was always told it doesn't produce seed, but Martin Grantham said, oh, I'm sure it does produce seed, just not a lot, because they only brought one clone to the United States. At least that's what he thought. But Bowie for me only moves when I accidentally move it to someplace. I have a lot of it and I just love it. But it does move around. It's nothing like Pest Capri. I thought I'd share that.
I'm positive that Pest Capri comes up from seed in my garden in San Francisco.
Really?
The plants are probably 15 or 20 feet away. I don't think birds are moving it. And what comes up has virtually no bulb attached to it when I pull it out of the ground.
Well, do you dig deep enough?
Yes. I can only dig about 3 inches deep in my soil. I hit bedrock at that point.
Any part of the bulb will produce a plant. My feeling is the gophers are chewing on them and spreading them around.
Jim Bishop in San Diego posted recently about gophers collecting all sorts of the bulbs one place and digging it out, but of course you can't,
right?
It's hard to get all of it. I mean, any little bit of it'll.
Well, gophers, I understand. I think it's Kathy Eccles, but I don't know if she's still on. She says she found that her gophers would bring all her daffodil bulbs and plant them too deep so that they couldn't do anything. And she thought it was a strategy they were using.
Well, there was a question about how deep to plant the oxalis, and I think I have found it depends on the species, that some of the species won't flower unless they're in a really deep pot, and other species are just fine in a 6-inch pot deep. And I've just found from experience, and some of the ones, if they're in a shallow pot, the bulb never gets very big, but if they're in a deeper pot further down, then the bulbs start getting bigger, and as they get bigger, well, then they flower better. So like oxalis bowiei is in a very deep pot.
Well, I can say this. I have a lot of paper white narcissus, and I have a clump in my beds, and it does not get much water, but it starts blooming a little bit. But this clump literally blooms from now until March. It just keeps setting up new spikes, and I theorize the bulbs go down really deep and they haven't gotten water yet initially. That's what I theorize. Because I can't believe how long this clump blooms.
Or maybe they're varying depths.
Yeah, when we've dug up other clumps, they go really deep after a while. They kind of build up from underneath.
Okay.
My guess is yours would be a clone, a certain clone that probably is just more free flowering.
Maybe, but I mean, it's a massive clump now. I don't divide my bulbs. My paper whites are also seeding out in places. I mean, I now have to deadhead everything that I have in bulbs because it's
what a horrible problem.
Well, I literally had
a problem.
My Amaryllis belladonna, I harvested a full chlorine tablet bucket of seed, and then I told my gardener, just put it in the green container. Don't let me see it. I can't control myself.
What was the plant?
The hybrid oxalis, hybrid Amaryllis belladonna. I have so many seeds, and I keep, to me, those seeds were always treasure. And I have to stop. It's a disease now.
Gorilla plant them.
Yes, I did. On the Iron Horse Trail. I've been bad.
I love that oxalis palmifrons.
That is gorgeous.
Yeah, the foliage is beautiful.
I've never seen one like that.
Yeah.
So how did you get it to flower, Mary Sue?
I didn't repot it. Most of my oxalis I repot every year, and I give the offsets to the Pacific Bulb Society for their bulb exchange, because they, in a pot, they increase most of them rapidly. And I have some raised beds where I grow bulbs in pots that are in pots so that I can pull them out, and I have gravel, sand around them. I have to check them every year because otherwise the redwood roots get in them, and pretty soon there's no soil, it's just all redwood roots. But this one oxalis palmifrons, I always had leaves, I never had flowers. But then I didn't repot it for 4 or 5 years, and all of a sudden it started to flower. And when I did repot it, I found the bulbs were much, much bigger than they had ever been when I would repot it every year. So I think maybe they just needed to get down to a certain depth, or just have an opportunity to grow. I don't know. But anyway, every year since then, it's been flowering well, even when I repotted. And the flowers are very cute. They sometimes come up before the leaves, and then when the sun goes down, they start folding up in a really interesting fashion. But I would just grow it for the leaves, even if it didn't flower, because they're so wonderful.
I can see that. It's definitely cute.
Agreed.
I wonder if we need another oxalis talk before too long.
Yeah, I think we should get Mary Sue to talk to us.
That might be a good idea.
That would be wonderful. I would agree.
You're already giving a Zoom talk, Mary Sue. You don't know that, but you are.
So these are 2 irids from South Africa. The Morea polystachya flowers. It's usually, if it comes up and it starts flowering, it might start flowering in like September and continue to flower until it just starts raining too much. Flowers only last a short period of time, but they produce many, many flowers over the time period. And then Gladiolus carminius is also reseeding itself about my garden, and it grows within view of the ocean. And my friend Bob Wera, who lives in Ukiah, can't get it to flower at all. And I can't, living on the coast, I can't get a lot of things that he can get to flower. So this one maybe likes the cooler temperatures that we have during the summer, and we also had a lot of fog this summer. But it's fun because all of a sudden it appears in your garden when a lot of other things aren't flowering, and because it's coming up in many different places in my garden. So it's one that I'm very fond of.
I have that same gladiolus in my garden in San Francisco, growing in the shade of an oak, where it gets no water whatsoever except from winter rains. And it's just finished flowering with last night's rain. I think that knocked off the last of the petals. I've got 2 clumps. And what I love about it is I've got it planted on a steep slope, and the 1/4 inch wide leaves hang or cascade down the slope and sort of spiral as they hang down. It's really quite attractive.
Oh, neat.
The leaves are very thin when they finally come up. It's really interesting.
Yeah, that Morea can be a terror. It can seed around like crazy and become terribly invasive, just like Oxalis pescapre.
I should have
It's interesting. It's interesting that has never happened to me. In fact, I wish I had more. And I think I don't water much at all during the summer because we really don't have water. And down in Southern California, I think where they water it well, it has become more of it can spread further. So maybe that depends on the conditions that it has, because I don't have very many at all.
Yeah, it was really became a pest plant at Rancho Santa Ana Botanic Garden in Claremont, and in areas that didn't get any water at all.
Interesting.
It was something that we were weeding out constantly. As bad as Homeria.
Yeah,
maybe there's a difference between Northern California and Southern California then. I don't know. I wish I had more. So
Ken was just mentioning it's a pest at Huntington Gardens as well.
A pretty pest.
Yeah,
pretty
it's
pest.
Pretty, but it's growing everywhere.
Right. You better like it.
Too much of a good thing. Yeah. Okay.
And then crocus, the crocus that I find is the easiest. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it looks really beautiful. This flowers for a long time. Seeds, produces a lot of seed, and so every year I have more. And then and then there's another one up and right, and then the hyacinthioides is the one that flowers in the fall. Most of the species flower in the spring, and it's real short, and it has bright color. You know, it has little purple to whitish flowers. It increases pretty rapidly, so I always have some that I can send, usually every couple of years, to the PBS bulb exchange.
Looks very dainty. And then Bart, you had provided a picture of the crocus Goulemii.
Yeah, Goulemii. Yeah, it's the one that seems to be the most tolerant of California conditions. It grows well in our area as well as Southern California. And it does tend to be one that returns very well. I'm experimenting with a number of other fall blooming crocuses, but that was the only one I sent you a photo of.
So returns, you mean blooms year after year?
Yeah. I mean, it's particularly Goulemii has that reputation in California for being probably the best of the fall blooming crocuses for California. For you only have to buy it once.
That's always good.
Gophers like it too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The oxalis on the right is native to South America, and it's the colors are so bright, really pretty bright yellow, and I really do enjoy it a lot. And I have trouble with the Narcissus bulb fly. I think knew how to catch it with a net, but I haven't been able to find it when it's going around. So I have to, if I'm repotting narcissus, I have to squeeze them, and if they are soft, well, there's usually a grub in them, and so then I throw those out. Or actually, I usually put them in the microwave in water and nuke them. But there's always a few that are smaller that appear, and sometimes they reseed in another pot and they appear. And so this one, there's been a couple of this one that I've seen in flower this fall. And then the one on the bottom is one that the allium man, Mark McDonough, gave me seed of, and it is a fun one because it's not anyone that you have to worry about, and the Northoscordum, and it flowers twice a year, in the fall and the spring. And I grow it in my greenhouse, and I give it water every now and then, and look forward to seeing it when it's in flower.
Nice.
The oxalis, what's the plant form? Is it a low growing mounding thing, or is it, and then comes up with the flowers, or how does that habit wise?
You mean the north of scrotum? Is that what you're asking about?
No, the oxalis.
It's not. The oxalis. Oh, it's really low, and it has pretty little green leaves. And I actually have some planted in the pot with the hyacinthioides that I just showed you a picture of. And so right now they're both flowering, which is kind of a fun combination.
Does the flowers come up on a stem above the foliage then?
Yes.
Ah, okay. Cute. Nice bright sunny color. Okay, Bart. Thank you, Mary Sue.
Yeah, this is just a Varroa rhododendron that isn't named, that is flowering right now at my house. I have a number of these, and they all seem to do very well. They can be sort of gawky plants. I grow all of mine in containers of varying sizes, mostly small pots. Most of them are epiphytic, so they're not used to having huge amounts of space anyway. And they're all evergreen. All of mine just seem to flower randomly, kind of whenever. And I have this one's the most showy one I have right now, but I also have a pink one and another one in bud.
Are any of those fragrant?
Some are, some aren't. This one is not fragrant. Usually it's I find mostly it's the white to pale pink ones that are the most fragrant, but it does vary. And the plant size varies a lot. I mean, all of mine are relatively young. The tallest one I have is probably about 5 feet or so. Many of them. I had started a whole bunch of them from Ted Kipping's a year or so ago. And some of those are even flowering right now. That's
you got some of those in the plant sale?
Probably, although I'm kind of worried about bringing in a whole lot of other plants because we want everything we bring to sell, and don't want to bring things back. So this will be our first big plants, or our first real plant sale in a number of years. So I'm not sure how that's going to go. I certainly hope everything goes and that I'll wish I brought more plants, but we'll see.
Nice problem to have.
When is the plant sale?
It's Sunday, November 14th at Golden Gate Park at our usual location. But it's in the afternoon.
11 to 3.
11 to 3?
Yeah, 11 to 3.
And books, Dick.
Okay.
Ted's books, the rest of Ted's books.
Great, thank you.
And then this is just one of the many Chilopsis linearis cultivars. This one is Lucretia Hamilton with rich purple flowers. The thing that I've always noticed about it, and you see that in the photo on the right, the lower 3 lobes of the flower, the 2 outer ones oftentimes tend to be folded back. So it isn't always the flat-faced look that the image on the left shows. But these are all just wonderful large shrubs, small trees. The biggest one known is at the Ruth Bancroft Garden of the species. Usually you can do almost anything with them. You can coppice them and grow them almost as giant perennials. And they love heat. This one's at the Regional Parks Botanic Garden in a container where I've been growing a lot of them on. We're growing them mostly for people who live inland. They're not at their best near the coast. They really love heat. So even places like Livermore or the Central Valley, they're excellent plants, and they can be brought into flower repeatedly from about April or May through October or November, depending upon how late the summer heat goes on.
How much cold can they take in the winter, Bart?
They can take extreme cold. It can, think of it this way. The Soil Conservation Service was planting these in the Dust Bowl in the 1930s as sort of windbreaks to hold the soil. And again, no problems with hardiness at all. And when you think about it, that the Chilopsis were hybridized in Tashkent. So Tashkent in Uzbekistan is a pretty cold continental climate, and yet they could grow them there.
I grew Chilopsis in the high desert in Southern California. We got several snows a year and they had no problem with it. But by that time, they're deciduous. So by that time they were bare anyway.
Yeah, and that there are, some people object to the seed pods, but then there are some seedless varieties that have been introduced. I've grown all of them, and that on occasion they'll produce a small or short seed pod. I haven't seen any that I would say are truly seedless. Even the Chilopsis themselves, Pink Dawn will occasionally produce a full-size fruit that does have viable seed. I've not seen any seed pods on Morning Cloud, the white Chilopsis, but the other thing that some people do object to them being deciduous, and there is one cultivar called Warren Jones that has very large pale pink flowers that is nearly evergreen in mild winters. At Rancho Santa Ana, it was always evergreen. It would just drop leaves whenever during cold snaps, but it would never lose all of them. Up here, they haven't gone completely dormant up here, but they've gone mostly dormant up here. They're spectacular plants. They do have the deep purples, the pure whites, the pale pinks, and the bicolors, where the upper petals are usually whitish to pinkish, and the lower petals are darker colored or frequently dark purple.
Hey, yeah, it's pretty color.
Yeah, and again, when people say that there just isn't any fall color in California or California's flora, people just aren't looking. And many people just aren't that excited by what does bloom in the fall. California has innumerable daisy family plants that flower in fall. And this is one of my favorites, Ericameria cuneata. It's an evergreen shrublet. This is at the Botanic Garden, and it's only about, a foot tall, and this one is about 6 feet across. It's in full bloom right now, or just going over right now. All of these fall blooming Asteraceae plants are very popular with pollinators, particularly bees and wasps, and many other insects as well visit these plants. We don't ever deadhead this. It just sort of is self-cleaning. And it does have really good looking foliage, as you can see in that middle image. They're very thick, leathery leaves that are almost round and kind of wavy edged. The plant usually grows in rock outcrops or frequently in crevices in rocks. But again, at the Botanic Garden, we're growing it on fairly level ground in clay, and it's perfectly happy. They can be slow to get going. I've grown this plant from cuttings a number of times. And again, it just is a wonderful plant for fall bloom.
Art, is this the species that I would have seen along the coast around Cambria, San Simeon, and up into Big Sur a month ago?
Probably not. You're probably seeing Vanitas or one of the others. This one is more Southern California and frequently up in the mountains. I've seen it most commonly in the San Gabriels, San Bernardinos, San Jacintos, and Santa Rosa mountains. But
well,
like I said,
it was gorgeous, and it was in full bloom for miles and miles along the coast.
Yeah, many of our Ericomerias, or the formerly Haplopappus, are just outstanding fall bloomers. And they come in all shapes and sizes, from little low ones like this to plants that look almost like miniaturized trees to about 6 feet, with gorgeous foliage that's almost always evergreen, and then yellow to orangish flowers.
Did they change all the Haplopappus to Ericomerias, or just part of them?
Just some of them.
Of course.
We don't have any Haplopappus anymore. Haplopappus itself is now strictly South American.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes it easier. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. So, for you guys that missed it earlier, we're having a plant sale. We could use help from 9 to 5 for setup and sales, and also for breaking down.
Clean up.
And we love customers, of course. So if you're not able to help, by all means, come and buy. Tell all your friends. That's on Sunday, November 14th from 11 to 3 at the San Francisco County Fair building, where we normally meet. And we'll be hopefully selling out of all of Ted's books. So we'll be having some really good sales, especially toward the end of the day.
Everything must go.
Yes, hopefully everything must go. And then we're gonna have a party on Monday, December 6th at 6:30. And remember to bring all your quirky, weird plant stories and your favorites and whatever you have to share as far as for the plant forum, as well as plants that are maybe blooming that are special, but anything goes. So hope to see you guys there. Thank you so much, Ken, for giving us a great presentation. And thanks everybody for sharing. Really appreciate it. So until
yes, and do remember that we will try to post the plant sale list on the Cal Hort website. And hopefully we'll even send out a blast that it's available whenever it is.
Yeah.
Okay. And email me if you are available to help and would like to help. So anyway, good night, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Yep, thank you. Great news.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Ellen.